Imagine two powerful queens with claims to the same throne locked in a rivalry that would change the course of history. One queen was bold and determined, ruling her country with wisdom and strength. The other symbolized grace and beauty, whose tragic life would be remembered for centuries. The fierce competition between Elizabeth I of England and Mary Stuart of Scotland is one of the most dramatic tales in history. Their rivalry wasn't just about two women fighting for power, it was about nations' future, dynasties' survival, and the struggle for control of the crown. This story of Elizabeth and Mary Stuart captures our attention, not just because of the politics and betrayals, but because of the human emotions at its core: fear, ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. Their lives were shaped by their choices, and their decisions changed the course of history. The question we must ask ourselves is, how did two cousins who should have been allies become bitter enemies, and what lessons can we learn from their rivalry today? We begin with Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen of England. Born in 1533 to King Henry VIII and his second wife Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth's early life was filled with uncertainty. Her mother was executed when she was just 2 years old, and she spent much of her childhood out of the royal court. But despite the hardships, Elizabeth's sharp mind and strong will prepare her for the challenges that lay ahead. When Elizabeth took the throne in 1558, she inherited a kingdom divided by religious conflict. England had been through years of turmoil, with Protestantism and Catholicism tearing the country apart. Elizabeth, a Protestant herself, knew that maintaining peace would not be easy. But she also knew that her strength as a ruler came from her ability to balance power and make decisions that would secure her throne. Meanwhile, across the border in Scotland, another queen was rising to power: Mary Stuart, known to history as Mary, Queen of Scots. Born in 1542, just a week after her father's death, Mary became queen when she was just 6 days old. Her early life was spent in France, where she was raised in luxury and married to the French Dauphin, Francis II. But tragedy struck when Francis died just a year after their marriage, leaving Mary a widow at the age of 18. When Mary returned to Scotland to claim her throne, she faced a country very different from the France she had known. Scotland was divided by religious conflicts, and Mary, a devout Catholic, struggled to maintain control over a Protestant majority. But despite the challenges, Mary was determined to assert her power. Her beauty, charm, and intelligence made her popular among many, but her Catholic faith made her a target for those who saw her as a threat to Protestantism in both Scotland and England. Here's where the rivalry between Elizabeth and Mary truly began. As the granddaughter of Henry VIII's sister, Mary had a strong claim to the English throne. To some Catholics, she was the rightful Queen of England, not Elizabeth. For Elizabeth, this was a direct threat to her rule. Although Elizabeth never married and had no heirs, she was determined to keep her throne secure from any challenges. Mary's claim to the English crown made her a dangerous rival, and Elizabeth couldn't ignore that. What followed was a complex and dangerous game of political manoeuvring. Mary made several missteps during her reign, including marrying Lord Darnley, a decision that led to scandal and violence. After Darnley's mysterious murder, Mary's position in Scotland grew weaker, and she was eventually forced to abdicate the throne in favour of her son James VI. Desperate, and with nowhere else to turn, Mary fled to England, hoping that her cousin Elizabeth would help her reclaim her throne. But Elizabeth saw Mary's arrival as a threat. She feared that Mary's presence in England would inspire Catholic uprisings and undermine her own rule. So instead of offering Mary protection, Elizabeth imprisoned her cousin. For nearly 19 years, Mary was held captive in various castles and estates across England. But even in captivity, Mary remained a symbol of Catholic resistance. Plots to overthrow Elizabeth and place Mary on the English throne surfaced repeatedly, and Elizabeth's advisors urged her to take action. Finally, in 1586, after one too many conspiracies, Elizabeth signed the order for Mary's execution. On a cold February morning in 1587, Mary Stuart was beheaded. Her death marked the end of her long and tragic life, but it also solidified Elizabeth's rule. Elizabeth lived for another 16 years, securing her place as one of England's greatest monarchs. She never married, famously declaring that she was married to England. Her reign became known as the Elizabethan era, a time of great cultural and political achievement. But despite her success, Elizabeth's decision to execute Mary weighed heavily on her. In her later years, she reportedly regretted signing the execution warrant, knowing that she'd killed her cousin, a fellow queen. The rivalry between Elizabeth and Mary had come to a bitter end, but the consequences of their conflict would shape the future of both England and Scotland. Their rivalry was about more than just two women competing for power. It was about the struggle for control of the British Isles and the fight to shape the future of religion in the region. Elizabeth represented the triumph of Protestantism, while Mary symbolised the hope of a Catholic restoration. Ultimately, Elizabeth's vision prevailed, and her legacy as a strong, independent ruler has inspired generations. But what can we learn from this story? At its core, the rivalry between Elizabeth and Mary is a reminder of the importance of self-control, resilience, and making difficult decisions in the face of uncertainty. Elizabeth faced immense pressure throughout her reign, yet she remained steadfast in her commitment to her people and her throne. She understood the weight of her responsibilities and made choices that would ensure the stability of her kingdom. Mary's story, on the other hand, reminds us of the dangers of ambition and the consequences of poor decisions. Despite her many strengths, Mary's choices ultimately led to her downfall. Her desire to reclaim her power, even at the risk of challenging Elizabeth, resulted in her imprisonment and execution. Her tragic end serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of wisdom, patience, and humility in leadership. In a world where power struggles and political conflicts continue to shape the course of history, the story of Elizabeth I and Mary Stuart remains relevant. Their lives teach us valuable lessons about leadership, perseverance, and the importance of making decisions that are guided by principles, not just ambition. As we reflect on their rivalry, we can take inspiration from Elizabeth's resilience and determination, while also learning from Mary's tragic mistakes. In the end, the rivalry between Elizabeth and Mary shaped the future of both England and Scotland. Their conflict was not just a personal struggle, but a battle for the soul of their nations. Today, we can look back on their stories and find inspiration in their courage, their strength, and their determination to protect what they believed in. As we continue to navigate our challenges, let's remember the lessons of Elizabeth and Mary. Let's strive to be resilient in the face of adversity, to make wise decisions, and to stay true to our values. Just as Elizabeth and Mary shaped the course of history, we too have the power to shape our futures. And like them, we can learn that the choices we make today will leave a lasting legacy for generations to come. If this story has stirred something within you, take a moment to reflect on what it means for your own life. What can you learn from the rivalry between these two queens? How can you apply the lessons of their lives to your challenges? Let's come together, as Elizabeth and Mary once did, two queens bound by blood but separated by ambition, and strive for a future that is guided by wisdom, resilience, and a commitment to the greater good. If you enjoyed this exploration of Elizabeth and Mary's rivalry, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel for more engaging historical content. Don't forget to like and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts. We invite you to explore our related videos, where we dive deeper into the lives of influential figures and pivotal moments that have shaped our world. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.